Dustin Hoffman, a figure once lauded as a genius who redefined the silver screen star and convinced the world that no role was beyond his grasp, now lives quietly at 88, enveloped by illness and solitude. A man whose tangled life is woven with both extraordinary talent and profound darkness. Born in Los Angeles in 1937 to a poor Jewish family, Hoffman navigated a childhood burdened by feelings of being the odd one out. Academically weak, small, and burdened with acne and braces, finding his initial relief from insecurity only through clowning around, mimicking teachers to make people laugh, a joke to survive that became the seed of his acting talent. When his initial pursuit of a respectable path as a pianist crumbled, he reluctantly signed up for an acting class just for easy credits, only to discover on that small college stage that he had finally found his true self, leading him to move to New York in 1958 with only $50, sharing a damp apartment with future stars Gene Hackman and Robert Duvall. Washing dishes by day and living fully in Lee Strasberg's method acting classes by night. Despite being deemed unsuitable for the screen due to his ordinary looks and small stature, directors told him he wasn't cut out for the screen. Hoffman insisted that he only needed to be real. A persistence that led to the turning point of his career, The Graduate in 1967, where director Mike Nichols cast the short, unremarkable 29-year-old as Benjamin Braddock, shattering the archetype of the perfect leading man and ushering in a new era of authenticity that inspired figures like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Hoffman cemented his status as a new definition of an actor with Midnight Cowboy, 1969, portraying the crippled drifter Ratso Rizzo with such raw, haunting realism, and continued his dazzling 1970s career by challenging himself with extreme roles, striving to understand why people become monsters in films like Straw Dogs, 1971, and bringing the soul of Lenny Bruce back to life in Lenny, 1974. This dedication culminated in his first Best Actor Oscar for Kramer vs. Kramer, 1979, a film that mirrored his own crumbling first marriage to Ann Byrne, into which he poured all his loneliness and pain, acknowledging, "I wasn't acting, I was living," his relentless devotion to the craft, earning him the title, the Madman of Art. Continued with the hilarious yet poignant societal critique Tootsie, 1982, where he realized the pain of women judged by their looks, and the draining adaptation of Death of a Salesman, 1985, where his performance as Willy Loman was so exhaustive he required hospitalization. Later followed by his second Oscar for his fiercely precise portrayal of an autistic savant in Rain Man, 1988, a role he prepared for by studying the condition and remaining in character for 12 weeks of filming. Yet, behind this chain of glory lay a dark history, which was brutally exposed when the #MeToo movement erupted in 2018, blowing away the golden veneer and revealing a different, terrifying image of the revered star, sparking questions about whether art can truly be separated from the person who creates it. The allegations began when Anna Graham Hunter, then a 17-year-old intern on the set of Death of a Salesman in the 1980s, recounted trembling words in her diary describing the confusion between idolization and fear after Hoffman made uncomfortable remarks and gestures. A claim Hoffman responded to in 2017 with a mix of denial, "I don't remember her, I don't think I ever met her," and a conditional apology, "If anything I did made her feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry." Soon after, other names emerged, including Catherine Rosser, Hoffman's Broadway co-star in Death of a Salesman, who described a horrific environment where she felt herself disappearing from my own body due to a masked sense of violation, and Corey Thomas, a friend of his daughter, who recounted a terrifying instance after dinner when Hoffman, wrapped only in a towel, asked her to massage his feet before deliberately dropping the towel, standing naked before the panicked 16-year-old. However, the most intense story involved the legendary actress Meryl Streep, who, despite creating cinematic masterpieces alongside him, spoke out, confirming that on the set of Kramer vs. Kramer in 1979, the A-list star placed his hand on her chest during their first meeting and, during a confrontation scene, suddenly slapped her hard without warning. A violation that left her stunned and traumatized, leading her years later to state resolutely, "He went too far. He slapped me for real." When journalist John Oliver publicly challenged Hoffman on stage about the allegations at a 2017 screening of Wag the Dog, Hoffman sharply denied knowing Anna Graham Hunter, leading Oliver to shoot back. "This isn't about forgetting, it's about accountability," with the entire exchange opening hundreds of articles that debated the ambiguity and the cold distance of power surrounding the star. Parallel to his public turmoil, Hoffman's personal life was steeped in tragedy, as his years of reckless debauchery and constant drug use contributed to the erosion of his 11-year marriage to Ann Byrne, the woman he loved most, who confessed that she felt like a shadow in his orbit as his fame soared. Their marriage ended in a quiet death in 1980 with a $4.5 million settlement, made more painful by Hoffman marrying Lisa Gutschon, a woman he met at a party and began an affair with, just weeks after the divorce was finalized. Despite the public fallout and the shadow of the allegations that lingers, Hoffman's subsequent marriage to Lisa Gutschon, an intelligent and composed lawyer, provided him with a steadfast anchor, teaching him to prioritize family over career, to the extent that he turned down a role in the global phenomenon Ghostbusters, 1984, just to stay home. Lisa remained by his side when he faced a silent tragedy later in life, a diagnosis of throat cancer linked to HPV, a consequence of his earlier reckless debauchery and carefree living, which was surgically removed but could return at any moment. Now in the twilight of his life, Hoffman has shifted to a quieter rhythm, choosing introspective, subdued roles that converse with his own soul, such as a bitter aging artist in the Meyerowitz Stories, 2017, or a lonely old man seeking warmth in Sam and Kate, 2022. Bringing his own fears of aging and illness to the screen, appearing small in a hoodie on New York streets beside his wife and grandchildren. Hoffman, who still acts in meaningful projects like Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis and continues to voice Master Shifu in the Kung Fu Panda series, proves that true talent doesn't need fanfare, only sincerity. Yet his career remains a symbol of an artist's tragedy, forcing the world to question the line between art and morality as the applause of yesteryears echoes only as a ghost of a bygone era. The journey of Dustin Hoffman, already marked by the heights of cinematic glory and the depths of personal turmoil, only grew darker as the years passed, leaving the world to grapple with an irreconcilable chasm between the artist and the man. When the #MeToo movement erupted like a raging storm in 2018, the golden veneer that had protected the revered star for decades was blown away, revealing a jagged, terrifying, and controversial image. The controversies began when the faint whispers backstage on the set of Death of a Salesman, 1985, became the epicenter of a seismic event. Anna Graham Hunter, then just 17, was a young intern whose job was to take notes and assist the crew. She recounted in her diary the trembling words describing the confusion between idolization and fear after Hoffman, the man the entire crew admired, made uncomfortable remarks and gestures. When her story broke in 2017, Hoffman offered a statement that became instantly infamous, telling CBS News, "I have the utmost respect for women. If anything I did made her feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry." However, he immediately undermined this conditional apology by adding, "I don't remember her, I don't think I ever met her," a statement quoted everywhere that was perceived as reflecting both ambiguity and the cold distance of power. Soon, other names emerged, indicating that even in his prime, Hoffman's darkness loomed over those around him. Catherine Rosser, his co-star in the Broadway production of Death of a Salesman, wrote in The Hollywood Reporter about a horrific environment where she felt herself disappearing from my own body due to a masked sense of violation, even though she initially felt it was an honor to perform with him. The list quickly grew, tallying at least 7 women who spoke out, all sharing the feeling of being hurt when power and admiration collided. Corey Thomas, a 16-year-old friend of his daughter Karina, recounted a deeply disturbing instance in a Manhattan hotel. After dinner, when Karina left, Hoffman emerged from the bathroom wrapped only in a towel and whispered, "Corey, massage my feet, will you?" before deliberately dropping the towel. Standing naked before the terrified girl, Corey panicked and fled to a corner to call her mother while Hoffman merely laughed, acting as if the world belonged to him. Screenwriter Wendy Riss-Gatsunis also recounted a 1991 meeting that ended in confusion and despair, feeling as though she was falling freely from trust. However, the most intense story came when the legendary actress Meryl Streep spoke out. She recalled the events 4 decades earlier on the set of Kramer vs. Kramer in 1979. Streep, new to film, was overwhelmed by the suffocating power imbalance, as Hoffman was already an A-list star and revered master of method acting. When she extended her hand to greet him, he abruptly placed his hand on her chest, smirking, saying, "You okay, Merle?" Just breaking the ice, a casual tone that belied the violation that left her stunned and trembling inside. She admitted that she wanted to scream, but since she was new and he was the star, she could only nod, receiving an immediate apology, though the touch left an invisible scar. The violation escalated during filming. Hoffman, immersed in his role, crossed the boundaries of performance. Knowing Streep had recently lost her partner, John Cazale, Hoffman threw out remarks about Cazale during a take to stir her emotions, a justification he later offered. Streep later acknowledged that while she understood he was trying to make the film better, he crossed a line. It wasn't necessary. The climax occurred during the confrontation scene where, without warning, Hoffman suddenly slapped Streep hard. The sound stunned the crew into silence, leaving Streep reeling and unsure if it was a mistake, a challenge, or an insult. She later recalled, "I've never felt so violated on screen." Years later, when #MeToo erupted, Streep was asked if Hoffman went too far. She responded with calm resolution, "Yes, he went too far. He slapped me for real. He spoke of my pain. And no one has that right." The public debate reached its peak in December 2017 at a screening of Wag the Dog when host John Oliver publicly challenged Hoffman on stage. When asked what he said to the allegations, Hoffman denied knowing Hunter, stating, "I don't know who that girl is, I never met her." Oliver shot back with an icy voice, "This isn't about forgetting, it's about accountability." A response that opened hundreds of articles debating the star's conduct. While no court convicted Dustin Hoffman, the public perception in the court of memory now forced the world to question the line between art and morality. Parallel to his public disgrace, Hoffman's private life had always been turbulent. His first marriage to Anne Byrne, built in 1969, was a whirlwind of love and ambition, producing daughter Jenna and seeing Hoffman adopt Anne's daughter, Karina. However, the weight of his soaring fame, his constant drug use, and his once charming recklessness began to erode the bond. Anne felt like a shadow in his orbit as her own acting dreams faded. By 1978, the film Kramer vs. Kramer became a catharsis but also a prophecy. Mirroring their crumbling relationship, exhausted, Anne finally confronted him, saying, "You chose fame over us." A charge Hoffman stood silent, unable to deny. Their marriage ended in a quiet death, with a $4.5 million settlement on October 6, 1980. True to his despicable nature, Hoffman had already met Lisa Gutschon at a party and began an affair, marrying her just weeks after the divorce from Anne was finalized. Lisa Gutschon, an intelligent and composed lawyer, proved to be the steadfast anchor that helped Hoffman find balance after years of chaos. They had 4 children together: Jacob, Rebecca, Maxwell, and Alexandra. Since meeting Lisa, Hoffman changed, learning to prioritize family over his consuming career. He even turned down a role in Ghostbusters 1984, a global phenomenon, just to stay home with his wife and children. Lisa, who sought no spotlight, remained quietly behind him, helping him return from heavy roles like Willie Loman or Raymond Babbitt, reminding him of home, children and love. Their marriage, lasting over 4 decades, was unflashy but unbreakable. Enduring illness and scandal, through her love and compassion, Lisa preserved his humanity and helped him find forgiveness and peace. Despite the turbulence, Hoffman's dedication to his craft never wavered. After the box office disaster Ishtar, 1987, he returned stronger than ever with Rain Man, 1988. He then became Hollywood's master of transformation throughout the 1990s, playing the fearsome Captain Hook in Hook, 1991, a doctor battling a plague in Outbreak, 1995, and a tormented alcoholic lawyer in Sleepers, 1996. His prophetic film Wag the Dog, 1997, about media manipulation, earned him another Oscar nomination. In the 2000s, Hoffman shifted to softer roles, bringing warm laughter to Meet the Fockers, 2004. His voice as Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda became a cultural icon. Deep, soft, and commanding, Hoffman asserted that even when he was just a voice, he still had to make the audience believe they were hearing a real soul. At 75, he tried directing with Quartet, 2012, a tender film about aging musicians that revealed a quieter, more empathetic side to his artistry. In the twilight of his life, Hoffman chose an introspective, subdued rhythm, taking roles that conversed with his own soul. In the Meyerowitz Stories, 2017, he became Harold Meyerowitz, a bitter aging artist haunted by his legacy, a role that mirrored a man who lived for art now facing the question of whether glory was worth the loneliness. In Sam and Kate, 2022, he played a lonely old man seeking warmth, bringing his own fears of aging and illness to the screen, turning each frame into a silent confession. These late roles, while not bringing him back to the pinnacle of fame, left a profound aftertaste, telling stories with stillness about family, aging, and life's fragility. However, the shadow of his silent tragedy remains. At 88, Dustin Hoffman lives quietly amid illness and solitude, diagnosed with throat cancer linked to HPV, a consequence of his years of reckless debauchery and carefree living in the 70s and 80s. Though the cancer was caught early and surgically removed, he knows it could return any moment. His stubborn, defiant nature pushes him to keep working. As if challenging fate, he is occasionally spotted wandering New York streets, small in a hoodie, beside his wife Lisa Gutschon and his grandchildren, an icon of old Hollywood quietly blending into everyday life. He continues to choose meaningful projects, such as voicing Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda 4, 2024, and joining Francis Ford Coppola's ambitious film Megalopolis. Hoffman's artistic legacy remains one of the most significant milestones of 20th century cinema. Before him, Hollywood favored the tall, handsome leading man archetype, but Hoffman, with his small stature and ordinary face, shattered those standards, proving that authenticity could carry the depth needed to move audiences. This breakthrough paved the way for a new generation of actors, including Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Jack Nicholson. He elevated method acting, earning him the title of the Madman of Art, willing to sacrifice himself for emotional truth. Yet, his name now carries two parallel images: a genius of acting and a vile man cloaked as a star who used power to manipulate and harm. His career forces the world to question the line between art and morality. Today, the stage lights have dimmed, the audience has turned away, and the applause of yesteryears echoes only as a ghost of a bygone era. Despite the profound personal scandals and the permanent shadow cast by the #MeToo allegations, Dustin Hoffman's artistic legacy remains one of the most significant milestones of 20th century cinema. Before his breakout role in The Graduate, 1967, Hollywood audiences were accustomed to the leading man archetype: tall, handsome, and confident, exemplified by actors like Paul Newman or Robert Redford. Hoffman, however, with his small stature, ordinary face, and awkward demeanor, shattered those standards. He proved that acting did not require perfect looks but profound authenticity. This breakthrough was tectonic, establishing that a flawed human could carry the emotional depth required to move audiences. This change paved the way for an entire new generation of actors who would redefine 1970s cinema, including Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Jack Nicholson. Hoffman also elevated the practice of method acting to challenging new heights. His devotion earned him the title, the Madman of Art, as he was willing to sacrifice himself for emotional truth. This involved staying awake for days for Marathon Man and living as an autistic person for 12 weeks during the filming of Rain Man. His characters, from Benjamin Braddock to Ted Kramer, Dorothy Michaels, and Raymond Babbitt, became cultural icons representing modern human crises, such as confused youth, broken families, societal outcasts, or the recognition of difference. Rain Man in particular changed how the world viewed autism, turning cinema into a tool for empathy and enlightenment. Even in his later years, Hoffman fluidly shifted roles, proving he was not only a brilliant actor but a subtle storyteller. As seen in his direction of Quartet, 2012, a tender film about aging musicians that revealed a quieter, more empathetic side. Stepping into his 80s, Hoffman moved away from chasing dazzling stage lights. Embracing a quieter, slower, more private rhythm, he began choosing introspective, subdued roles as if conversing with his own soul. His portrayal of Harold Meyerowitz, a bitter aging artist haunted by his legacy in the Meyerowitz Stories, 2017, mirrored a man who lived for art now confronting the question of whether glory was worth the loneliness. In films like Sam and Kate, 2022, he played a lonely old man seeking warmth in life's final chapter. They say Hoffman brought his own fears of aging and illness to the screen, turning each frame into a silent confession. Despite his age and the shadow of his illness, throat cancer linked to HPV that, though surgically removed, could return at any moment, Hoffman has never declared retirement. His stubborn, defiant nature pushes him to keep working. As if challenging fate, he still chooses meaningful projects, appearing in indie films like Tuner and Luca Mortis. In 2024, he drew attention by attending the Kung Fu Panda 4 premiere with his family, continuing his role as the voice of Master Shifu, a character he has been tied to for nearly 2 decades. Furthermore, his presence in Francis Ford Coppola's ambitious project, Megalopolis, is symbolic, acting like a handshake between 2 golden eras of Hollywood. He is occasionally spotted wandering New York streets, small in a hoodie, walking beside his wife Lisa Gutschon or his grandchildren, an icon of old Hollywood quietly blending into everyday life. Ultimately, the story of Dustin Hoffman remains one of an artist's tragedy. His life, a tapestry woven with glory and darkness, forces the world to confront an irreconcilable question: can art be separated from the person who creates it? From the heights of 2 Oscars to allegations of groping and exposure that shattered his image, Hoffman's name now carries 2 parallel images: a genius of acting and a man who acted as a vile man cloaked as a star, using power to manipulate and harm. In the public's gaze, the court of memory dictates that the shadow of power always knows how to hide itself. Today, at 88, the stage lights have dimmed, the audience has turned away, and the applause of yesteryears echoes only as a ghost of a bygone era.